Hi everyone, my name is Alfito Lodi. Today I want to make how to analyze the poem. Today the title of the poem that we're gonna use is Love Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Here I would like to explain the poetic technique of this poem, such as identify the type of this poem, tools that a poet creates the rhythm and change a poem meaning or intensify a mood or a feeling, and telling how to read the poem, briefly explain figurative language and how to determine figurative language in poetry, and learn how to read poetry according to the rhythm, the appropriate rhyme, and determine the difference and in punctuation that makes a difference from how to read poetry that is read in general. Learning materials and the background, I guess. Okay, but first is I wanna tell the history of this poem first. Okay, Love Philosophy. Love Philosophy is a poem by the second generation romantic poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. The poem was published in December 1819 and is one of Shelley's most accessible short poems. Nevertheless, a few words of analysis may help to illuminate the poem meanings. First, though, here takes the form. Love Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with the sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountain kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdain its brother. And the sunlight claps the earth, and the moonbeam kiss the sea. What is all this sweet work worth, if thou kiss not me? Okay, anyway, that's the technical aspect of the way. What is Shelley actually saying in Love Philosophy? What is the argument of this poem? And it is a seductive poem. A poem of seduction and attempt to pursue that female addressed to join with the male, caught in action of union, shall we say. Shelley makes his argument by drawing parallels with other areas nature. The fountains mingle with the river, and the river mingles with the ocean. They are happy to join themselves with something similar to them, and yet distinct. The different winds mingle together in the sky or heavens, and this produces a sweet emotion indeed. It's not only natural but decreed by God that nothing should be single and that everything should be meet and mingle with something else. This happened by divine as well as natural law. If this so, in nature, Shelley pleads them want the address mingle with him, not how he isn't actually talking strictly about physical union here, but a spiritual joining. In the last line of the first stanza, he is lamenting the fact that he is not allowed to mingle with the addressed spirit. Shelley continued this line of argument in the second stanza of Love Philosophy. The mountains we are so tall, they seem to kiss the sky or high heaven, combining the awe-inspiring or sublime majesty of nature with the divine. The waves of the sea seem to clasp each other, and so on. His vision of two flowers as being childlike siblings is like an older boy asking a young girl out with him, telling her that she shouldn't hang out with her male sibling all the time but should spend some time with other boys doing more grown-up things. But none of this worth anything. Shelley concludes, if the woman will not kiss him, note how he begins by describing how the mountains kiss the heaven, and ends by suggesting the idea of the woman kissing him. The repetition of kiss in these two contexts reinforces that idea that it would be perfectly natural for her to kiss him. Look, even the mountains are doing it to the sky. Similarly, the repetition of claps in the middle lines of this stanza brings together the disparate aspect of the poem. Rhetorically, Shelley is using these echoes to hammer home the idea that everything in nature follows the same law, and what's more, it is a law that is created by some higher power. We should perhaps be wary of ascribing this to be Christian God, because Shelley was an atheist who even got thrown off the University of Oxford for co-authoring a pamphlet called The Necessity of Atheism. But like the other romantics, he was possessed of pantheistic belief in divinity of nature. Okay. Love Philosophy is indeed a romantic poem as well as a romantic one. It is a poem which gives the divine stamp to the notion of real love, the idea being to pursue our emotion and attraction of spirit at any cost. But Shelley expressed this idea using familiar imagery and keeps the argument plain and accessible as chat-up lines go. It is expressed better than most. And now is poetic device. First is poetic device form. We look at poetic devices relating to form. Poetic form refers to how the poem is structured using stanza, line length, rhyme, and rhythm. Clever use of poetic form can enhance the meaning or emotion the poet is trying to achieve. What are the basic poetic devices of form? Again, there are a huge variety of formal choice open to a poet, but for the purpose of this article, we can divide them into three categories. The first is fixed verse, blank verse, and free verse. What is fixed verse? Fixed verse is a poems follow traditional forms based on formal rhyme scheme and specific patterns of stanza, refrain, and meter. Types of fixed verse include limerick, haiku, ballad, villanelle, sestina, and roundel. The most used, however, are odes and sonnet. And next is blank verse. Blank verse poems comprise unrhymed lines that use a regular meter, basically a non-rhyming iambic pentameter. Blank verse is the most influential of all English poetical forms and has regularly been used by all the greatest poets throughout the century. Christopher Marlowe used blank verse first. But once again, it was Shakespeare who made the form his own. The most famous example in Shakespeare's work is to be or not to be, solely from Hamlet. Notice how the rhythm accentuates the feeling of grandness as all of the life and death are considered. And next is free verse. Free verse poems remove the need for both formal rhyme and formal metric rhyme schemes. This allows the poem to be shaped completely by the poet. Removing this formality often allows the poet a far greater canvas on which to play. Poetic devices diction. Next, we look at the devices of poetic diction. Poetic diction means the sounds, meanings, and rhythms that make up the language or operating system of poetry. This type of devices are what the poet used to establish the feel and atmosphere of the poem. Poetic devices. And next is poetic devices of sound. Poetic devices of sound is there are a poetic device that use specific sonic effects to evoke emotion or thought in the reader of the poem. The following example represents some of the most common sonic literary devices. Next is poetic device of meaning. Poet also has several poetic devices available which allow them to tease out the intended meaning of the poem without having to be too literal. Next is poetic devices of rhythm. Devices of rhythm are those that give the poem a rhythmic effect and in doing so allow that the poet to stress certain elements of meaning and emotion. And then is poetic devices punctuation. Whereas in normal writing, punctuation has a alliteration purpose. In poetry, it can be used as a tool of expression or artistic choice. And the other, maybe I'm just trying to mention but I don't give a short explanation. There are alliteration, assonance, consonance, cacophony, euphony, onomatopoeia, allusion, conceit, irony, metaphor, paradox, personification, rhetorical question, simile, symbolism, caesura, enjambment, matter, rhyme, repetition, apostrophe, comma, exclamation mark, and question mark. And how to identify poetic devices? As with all things, the more poetry that you read and the more you take an interest, the quicker you will recognize the creative use of poetic devices. Continually ask yourself, what are the poetic devices in the poem I am reading? Then, as you begin to use them in your own poetry, the first and the most important lesson is don't overuse them. Less is often more with poetry, so avoid alliterative odes to mom's favorite face, full of symbolism and packed with the caesura and exclamation mark. Okay, next is figurative language. The definition of figurative language. Figurative language refers to the use of words in a way that deviates from the conventional order and meaning in order to convey a complicated meaning, colorful writing, clarity, or evocative comparison. It used in an ordinary sentence to refer to something without directly starting it. Understanding figurative language is an important part of reading the management discussion and analysis, where management may use a metaphor to help explain complicated concept or direction that the company is taking. Writers use figurative language to engage their audience using a more creative tone that provokes thinking and sometimes humor. It makes fiction writing more interesting and dramatic than the literal language that use words to revert to statement of fact. Figurative language also refers to figures of speech that are used in order to improve a piece of writing. Figures of speech includes metaphors, similes, hyperboles, and allusions that take a description beyond the obvious and into the poetic. The figures of speech are used to expand a reader's understanding by tapping into their sense. Preconceived notion of what something should be like or what the contextual implication or connection are. Purpose of figurative language. The primary reason that readers use figurative language is to stimulate a reader's imagination. They are asked to think beyond what they immediately see or feel and make deeper, more meaningful, and sometimes surprising connection. It is not used to convey something literal, but something emotional or conceptual. This kind of language can often get to the root of meaning and tap into something universal to all readers. It is especially important when a topic is complex or abstract. Next is the characteristic of figurative language. The most important characteristic of figurative language is used in poems is that it makes poem easier to read. There are 4 characteristics of figurative language. First, figurative language affords readers imaginative pleasure of literary works. Second, it is a way of bringing additional imagery into verse, making the abstract concrete, making literary works more senses. The third is figurative is a way of adding emotional intensity to otherwise merely informative statement and conveying attitudes along with information. And the last, it is a way of saying much in brief compass. There are 2 general categories of figurative language. First is tropes, which are to do with meaning variation in the use of flexons in multi-word language construction. And second is seams, which concern the repetition of phonological, syntactic, and lexical forms. By using figurative language, the writers can evoke emotion and imagery from their writing that literal language just cannot provide, Thus, figurative language makes expressing meaning through writing easier and more relatable to the reader. Next is the kinds of figurative language. Based on many experts, there are many kinds of figurative language. In this study, the writer only will discuss some of them. There are 11 types of figurative language. The description of figurative expression below is derived from Hotburn de Linga, Bernd Berman, and Burt Burto. Giroux MacArthur, Caraff, and Sylvan B. Will be present in alphabetical order. For some, practically alliteration is the repetition of the first letters or sound in a word. The figure of speech is used to create special effects or establish a particular mood or feeling. It's a few steps to analyzing figurative language in a poem. Writing an essay about a poem is both similar to and different from writing an essay about a short story. Here are some tips and suggestions. Like all essay you will write for this class, you need a central claim that has a debatable position on the poem. You need to support that claim using evidence from the text, and you need to analyze that evidence, explaining how it supports your claim. However, unlike an essay about a story or a play, an essay about a poem will often focus more on figurative language and formal poetic devices, and less on character development and narrative. A poem in many ways is more similar to a song than to a fable or villain. Here then are a few steps to analyzing figurative language in a poem. First is identify what is metaphor, simile, personification, metonymy, assonance, alliteration, etc., or significant diction, line breaks, punctuation, syntactical choice, etc. Next is explain what the poetic. Figurative language means in the particular part of the poem. This could include saying what two things are being compared, what symbolize, how one object stands in for an emotion or idea, the significance of the line or image, etc. For example, a rose symbolize love, a black shoe represents the overbearing presence of the father in the speaker's life, or etc. And third is describe how that figurative language relates to the overall meaning, theme, or purpose of the poem. The overall meaning, theme, or significance of the poem will depend on what your central claim is. Your central claim is your interpretation of the poem. So step 3 ensures that your analysis links back to your central claim. And next is the message expressed by figurative language. In this case, the collection data is also using library research. Poem is difficult enough for us to be able to capture the intent of message of a poem. However, according to Martani, 2011, that there are several ways that people can do as a tool to detect what exactly is the message to be conveyed by the poem. They are: people should read the poem carefully, look at the title of the poem, because the title of the poem will give clues about the dominant purpose of poem. And then is observing the diction or word by word selected by the author, especially those referring to the context of the local culture, to search for referential or contextual meaning. And next is noting the connotative meaning, to determine textual meaning. Observe how to they deliver it and figurative language. And the last, for the message to be conveyed by the poem after the completion of a series of stages. Of course, people can gain an impression and message to be conveyed by the poem. Most poetry is quite too easy to catch imminent, but there is also a very abstract poem and foresight needed to be able to understand the meaning to be conveyed by the author. The message in a poem is a recommendation or advice of the poet to the reader of poem. And the element poetic device and figurative language in love philosophy poem is alliteration, assonance, anadiplosis, concate, consonance, enjambment, personification, rhetorical question, and sibilance. Okay, next is rhythm and rhyme scheme. Before we learn to determine rhythm and rhyme scheme, we need to try to understand first the meaning of rhythm and rhyme scheme in general. Okay, first is the definition of rhythm. When we speak in ordinary conversation, we pronounce different parts of word or syllables separately. For example, table has 2 beats or 2 syllables is table. Chair has only 1 syllable, chair. Some syllables seems to have a long for short sound when they are pronounced. Take the word table, the first part of the word is emphasized when we say it. Table, the second part of the word sounds shorter. We can call this different syllable emphasis stress or unstressed. In the word banana, for example, the central syllable is longer or stressed when you say it naturally, banana. Try saying it out loud to hear where the natural emphasis falls. Poets make use of this natural stress in language in order to create rhyme in poetry. It can be helpful to think of rhythm in poetry as being like a beat in music. In poetry, this pattern of these stressed and unstressed parts of word is called the meter, which is the number and type of rhythmic beats in a line of poetry. In types of poems, such as haikus, the writers count the number of syllables in each line. In metrical poetry, however, poets doesn't count the number of syllables in each line. They count the number of stress. All spoken word has a rhythm formed by stressed and unstressed syllables. Poets deliberately create rhythmical patterns to create particular effect. Traditionally, a poet uses meter, a regular pattern of stress, to create a rhythmic pattern. In modern poetry, a poet might also use line breaks to create rhythm. Then, before we trying to determine rhythm, we need to know what is meter. Meter is, in a line of poetry, is identified through the stressed and unstressed pattern of words. Poetic rhythms are measured in metrical feet. A metrical foot usually has 1 stressed syllable and 1 or 2 unstressed syllables. Different poets use the pattern of the meter to create different effect. Okay, there is the type of meter is determined by the number of feet in a line. First is dimeter. Dimeter is contains 2 metrical feet, and next is trimeter. Trimeter is contains 3 metrical feet, and next is tetrameter. Tetrameter contains 4 metrical feet. Pentameter contains 5 metrical feet, and last is hexameter, contains 6 metrical feet. Okay, there are effects of rhythm. Different rhythm can have different effects on a reader. A poet will use rhythm to generate a mode or tone, which may copy or echo what the poem is about. Remember, a poet is often trying to say a lot in just a few words, and so understanding rhythm will help with your understanding of the whole poem. Just like in the music in a film, the beat or rhythm helps to build an expectation of the content. Okay, there's some tips to determine a rhythm in a poem. First is choose a simple pattern of unstressed or stress. When a line of poetry uses a pattern of unstressed or stress, it is known as an iambic. This is the most common form of rhythm in poetry, so you will notice it often. You can easily integrate this type of rhythm into your writing by ensuring that your syllables are arranged in the same pattern. Next is try to following stressed syllables with unstressed syllables. A trochaic is just the opposite of an iambic. The stressed syllables come before unstressed ones. Use 2 consecutive stressed syllables. If you notice 2 syllables in a row that are stressed in your poetry, then you might have a spondic line. Next is opt for stressed syllables followed by 2 unstressed syllables. A slight more complex way to incorporate rhythm is dactyly. You can create a dactyl by starting with a syllable that is stressed and following with two unstressed syllables. And last is include two unstressed syllables followed by a stressed syllable. Anapaests are the opposite of dactyls, with the two unstressed syllables coming first and the stressed one after them. Okay, now we're gonna determine the rhythm in Love Philosophy poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Maybe before I determine the rhythm, I will read again the poem first. Okay, Love Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The words of heaven mix forever with the sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In one spirit meet and mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountain kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it disdain its brother. And the sunlight claps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What is all this sweet work worth, if thou kiss not me? Okay, now is to determine the rhythm. In the first stanza is 3-meter trochaic, and the next line is 3-meter iambic, and the third line is 3-meter trochaic, and the fourth line is D-meter iambic. Next slide is 3-meter trochaic, and then it's 3-meter iambic, and next is 3-meter trochaic, and in last line in the first stanza is D-meter trochaic plus 1. Okay, in the second stanza in the first line is 3-meter trochaic plus 1, and in the second line is 3-meter trochaic, and the third line is 3-meter trochaic too. And the next line is still same in the 3-meter trochaic, and the next line is 3-meter iambic plus 1. And the next slide in the next line is 3-meter trochaic plus 1. And the next line is 3-meter trochaic plus 1 too. And the last line in the second stanza is D-meter iambic plus 0. Okay, next is rhyme scheme. The definition of rhyme. Rhyme is a literary device featured particularly in poetry, in which identical or similar concluding syllables in different words are repeated. Rhyme most often occurs at the ends of poetic lines. In addition, rhyme is principally a function of sound rather than a spelling. For example, words rhyme that end with the same vowel sound but have different spelling. It's like a day, pray, way, bucket. This is true for words with the same consonant ending as well. Fain, rain, lane. Rhyme is therefore predominantly independent of the way words look or are spelled. Writers use rhymes as a way to create sound pattern in order to emphasize certain words and their relationship with others in an artistic manner. And how to determine rhyme scheme? If you want to determine which rhyme scheme a poem follows, look to the last sound in the line. Label every new ending sound with a new letter. Then, when the same sound occurs in the next line, use the same letter. You can work out the rhyme scheme of a poem by labeling the words that rhyme with each other. It will help you see the pattern of the poem. For example, if a poem's first and third lines rhyme, you should label those A. If the second and fourth lines of the poem rhyme, label this B. Then you can see your 4-line poem has an AB rhyme scheme. If all 4 lines rhyme with each other, this is an AAA rhyme scheme. And what is the rhyme scheme AABB? Because each letter in a rhyme seem refers to one ending sound, you can easily see which line rhyme for that poem. For example, if the given rhyme scheme is AABB, that means the first two lines rhyme with each other and next two lines rhyme with each other. When you write a rhyming poem, you do not have to follow a fixed pattern. You can just keep adding new rhymes and continue expanding the pattern. But some types of poems have assigned rhyme schemes. These include: first is Shakespearean sonnet. This is always a 14 lines poem broken down into 3-4 lines, stanza and a couplet to end the piece. The rhyme scheme is A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, G G, unique only to the Shakespeare sonnet. And the second is alternate rhyme. In this rhyme scheme, the first line rhymes with the third, and the second line rhymes with the fourth. The ABAB rhyme scheme is a common for poems with 4 lines in each stanza. And next is ballad. Ballad is the lyric poem, not to be confused with the ballad. Typically comes in 3 stanzas of 8 lines each, and ends with a 4-line stanza. The rhyme scheme for a ballad is AB, ABB, CBC. And next is couple rhyme. Couple rhyme, this refers to 2 consecutive lines that rhyme, usually in 2-line stanza. The rhyme scheme is AA, BB, CC, or any other similar scheme with pairs of rhyming lines. We call this type of rhymes rhyming couplets. The Shakespearean sonnet always ends with a rhyming couplet. And next type is monorhyme. A monorhyme is when all the lines in one stanza or even an entire poem end in the same sound. The rhyme scheme can be designed as A. And next is enclosed rhyme. In an enclosed rhyme scheme, the first and fourth line rhymes with each other, while the second and third line also rhyme with each other. The rhyme scheme is ABBA. Next is triplet. A triplet is when 3 lines in one stanza and in the same sound. The rhyme scheme is therefore AAA. And the last type is limerick. Limerick is this humorous poem comes in 5 lines and a rhyme scheme of AABBA. Then now we can determine the rhyme in this poem. The rhyme in Love Philosophy poem is A B C D. So the conclusion is we can emphasize important ideas. When analyzing poetry, we can learn to understand the meaning of things in poetry with a lot of practice analyzing, and how to read poetry makes us more able to enjoy the meanings contained in poetry. Okay, thank you. I think that's all from me. See you in next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.